Good afternoon, everyone. Mayor Snodgrass is not able to join us today because of illness, and so I am just taking over um, handling the meeting today. Before we actually open our meeting, I would like to remember the mayor of Okotoks, Bill Robertson, has passed away cancer in the last week, and it was a time when we could maybe just take a moment of silence to remember Bill and his legacy as a long time Okotoks resident, and actually as a teacher with the Foothills School Division, and a long-term counselor, first elected in 1995 to Okotoks Town Council. And at that time, Okotoks was only approximately 10,000 population. And he served on council for until the last 3 terms, 1 3-year term as was elected as mayor, and then 2 4-year terms as mayor of the town of Okotoks. He made significant contributions to the community and to the Calgary region. I've been working with Bill for all of my term for the last 14 years through the Calgary Regional Partnership and other intermunicipal meetings that we've had. And it was a very inspiring and thoughtful leader in the community. And a lot of, if you wanted somebody to recite Robert Service's poems, Bill was right there to do it at the beginning of a meeting. And so if we could just take a moment of silence before we begin our meeting to remember Bill Robertson. So I will call our regular meeting of council of July the 12th, 2021 to order at 3:04 p.m. On our agenda today, we've got 2 additions. Chris, can you elaborate on the 2 additions to the agenda?
Yes, I can, Acting Mayor. For the first edition is 6.3, which will be the Eagle View Bank Protection Project resolution. As well, under 5.2, we will be considering a motion for the rental of the Beechwood properties for filming The Last of Us.
Okay, that's great. So if I could call on Councillor Cooey to give us a motion that we adopt the agenda for the regular council meeting on July 12, 2021 is amended to include the following. Item 6.3, Eagle View Bank Protection Project, and item 5.2, an additional motion required on the Highway 2 detour for filming. There'll be another motion for Beechwood properties.
I will happily give you that motion, Deputy Mayor Moore.
Thank you, Councillor Cooey. All those in favor of that amended agenda? Okay, that's carried. Our consent agenda is going to be covered by an omnibus motion, and we'll call on Councillor Kinghorn to make this motion. Be it resolved that the following are adopted by an omnibus motion in accordance with Council's procedure bylaw. June 28th, 2021 regular council meeting minutes, June 28th, 2021 special council meeting minutes, and the strategic priorities chart.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Moore. I will give you that motion.
Thank you. All those in favor? Nobody opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Jody, are there any public comments?
No, Deputy Mayor Moore, there were no public comments.
Great, thank you. Yeah, delegation, site finders represented by Rob Roycroft on Roycroft Consulting Services. So Rob, if you're up and ready, there you are. Thanks. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and members of council. Thank you for allowing me to be here today and update you on progress being made towards construction of a 20-unit affordable housing project called the Grain Elevator. I can reassure council we've made some good progress since the last time we had conversations. We're also making an appearance here today to ask the town to work in collaboration with the developer and Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation. We believe we've got a stool here and we need 3 legs to stand on, and all 3 of these parties need to work, will hopefully be able to work together. We've been working for over 3 years on this particular concept, and of everything we need to proceed to the next step, including all planning approvals, development permit, and the like. The only obstacle standing in the way of the project proceeding is that of financing. It's not an unusual one for projects, and it's always challenging, but we believe that with council's support, we can reach the finish line on this one. Over the last few years, our research in the community supports the need for small affordable rental units. In fact, Westwinds last advised us they have over 40 names on a waiting list. It's our hope that through this 3-party collaboration, we can find a way towards satisfying some of that demand within a very short period of time. The CMHC program we're trying to access is called the Mortgage Loan Insurance for Multi-Unit Residential Properties. It is intended to stimulate the construction of rental properties at affordable rates. Under that program, the total rental income arising from all of the units must be 10% below market rates as defined by CMHC. The exact rates will be set using an updated appraisal prior to construction. To qualify for the CMHC financing, they require some form of municipal support. We believe the safest and easiest way to satisfy this requirement is for the town to waive payment of property taxes for a first 10-year period. That's the initial term of the mortgage. That approach results in no cost and no risk to the taxpayers of High River. In our communications with CMHC as recently as yesterday, we believe this, or the day before, we believe this is a supportable approach and should result in their approval under their program requirements. Without the CMHC mortgage, no affordable housing project can be constructed. Without town support, no CMHC mortgage can be secured. So, path ahead is clear. Site Finder stands ready to do its part, and we hope Town Council will follow the same plan. Please support our request to waive payment of the property taxes for the initial 10-year timeframe. We think this is a clear win-win-win approach that will benefit High River residents. We're requiring some more affordable housing alternatives. Thank you, and I'll try to respond to any questions you might have.
Thank you, Rob. We don't. Oh, Bruce, Councillor Masterman.
Hi, Rob. You knew you wouldn't get away that easily. So yeah, I do have a quick question, I'm kind of intrigued by your comment that there's no cost and no risk to the residents of High River, and I'm just thinking, whatever taxes we would be collecting over 10 years, if we waive that, obviously the taxpayers of High River would be picking up that balance. So I'm not really looking for a comment on that, but I just did want to make that point that there is certainly a cost. And if you'd like to speak to that, I'd welcome that. I also, I guess, through your many years of experience in municipal governance, I'm wondering how often you've encountered municipalities that are willing to give corporations this kind of break. And I can appreciate your stool analogy and needing 3 legs to make it stand and all that, but yeah, I'm just curious about that.
Okay, Councillor Masterman, it's when I said no cost and no risk, some of the other options that we've looked at previously over the last couple of years have involved some of those elements. Very few, if any, affordable housing projects proceed without some kind of support. As I indicated in our primary letter, many municipalities provide a parcel of land at no cost, through some long-range lease arrangement to enable the project to proceed. But even then, there's still a requirement for affordable financing. So when I said no cost, I meant no out-of-pocket costs, no direct payments, no loss of land, no subsidies, and no risk means that the situation isn't going to change. You're not going to all of a sudden in a few years find yourself being forced to ante up anything at all. The final comment I'd like to make is that the developer has invested an awful lot to get to this point, believes the project is needed, believes it'll benefit the community, but in the absence of municipal support and our ability to gain that CMHC financing, the project doesn't proceed. So from that perspective, there would be no loss of taxes because there would be none payable. So that's how I came to that comment.
Thank you.
Councillor McMillan.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Moore, and thank you very much, Mr. Roycroft, for your presentation. I think the question I have is when you mentioned about West Winds having 40 names on a wait list, have you, has the developer and yourself reached out to West Winds to work collaboratively?
Thank you, Councillor McMillan. That's a real soft one for me to answer. Yes, we have worked closely with West Winds. We've had many discussions as recently as the last couple of weeks. And we have tried to open a line of discussion with West Winds for them to take over the project and construct it and operate it as an affordable housing project. But they're unable to do that because their charter, their legislation requires that they actually have to either own the land or it has to be publicly owned. So they are unable to participate with us in a direct fashion, although they've been a great help to us in providing information and supporting the need and offering comments in terms of the design and layout of the unit. So we have been in close contact with them. We had hoped that they could actually take on the project, but they're unable to by their legislation.
Okay, thank you. And you mentioned about some municipal support, and one you said was a land donation, or another one is this property tax relief. What are other options?
In some cases, municipalities set up housing authorities and fund those to participate in projects. In some cases, as I said, there may be a donation of land. There may be a donation of servicing costs or offsite levies or development levies or charges or subsidies in that way. There may be an ongoing purchase of a number of the units for rental back to needy people who need them. So, there's lots of different options being used in other locations, all fitting those locations' interests. After a couple of years of conversations with staff and council, we've come back to this particular option as the one that works in these circumstances.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Rob, I don't see any other. You have one. I just wanted to make a comment, is that you are paying taxes right now on the land, the bare land. Could that, if we were to approve of this arrangement, would the tax on the land itself, because it's no qualifier for the CMHC factor, could they continue and only have the forgiveness of taxes on the structure itself?
I'm not so sure I can give you a response right now, because I'm not so sure that we've actually asked that fine detailed question. In our conversations with CMHC, they have said there has to be municipal support in some fashion, and they have agreed with the principle that waiving of taxes for the initial 10-year term of the would satisfy their requirements. So that's the conversation we've had so far. I think in that case, it's all of the taxes, but I would have to confirm that with CMHC directly.
Okay. I know it's not a very big amount as a farmland type taxation. However, it is then becoming a cost to the town. As you had said, that there would be no cost to the town. Because
we're hoping 20 units of affordable rental accommodation is a real benefit to the community as well.
Yes, no doubt. Okay, Councillor Masterman.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And I apologize, I meant to ask this earlier, and then I thought it would be in the report. But what number are we talking about, taxes over 10 years? And I apologize if it is in this report and I just didn't see it. I'm just wondering, it's nice to have all the information. I'm just wondering what number we're talking about, either from Rob or Chris or somebody.
I think Chris has some idea of what that number would be.
So thank you, Deputy Mayor Moore, through you to Councillor Masterman. The current vacant land taxes are about $2,300 and change per annum. based upon the estimated completed building construction around $2.25 million. That would be a difference of about 21,000 and change that we would relinquish. So it'd be, if council were to give tax relief for the next 10 years, if the land value was included in that taxation, it would be about $21,654 that would be gifted, I guess, or back to for affordable housing.
That's total over 10 years, Chris?
That's per year.
Right.
Yeah,
Thank
so it'd be about $216,000 in change.
Okay, thank you.
Are you okay, Bruce? That answered. Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none. Thank you, Rob. We have got all the information we need, I guess, to bring this to a future council meeting.
Appreciate the opportunity to respond to your questions, and thank you very much. Good luck. Take care.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 5.2. And I see Jason has joined us and from your car again.
I have not made it very far.
I know you're a very, very busy man, but thank you for coming in. You have the floor.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thanks to everyone and the community. We've been prepping in town for a couple of weeks now, and things are going tremendously well. Everyone's been very welcoming, and we're really looking forward to spending the next week here and then coming back again in a few. I wanted to talk to you guys today about a scene we're looking to do on Highway 2. I've been working with Alberta Transportation to do a detour, an overnight detour on Highway 2 in order for us to film a scene involving a traffic jam. And this would be on the southbound on-ramp from 498. And we'd be looking to close it from the interchange at 498 on Highway 2 to Highway 23. And this would involve us having to reroute traffic through the town of High River in order to do so, which we could do on either Highway 2A or 5th Street, which is also a trucking route. So, and I do have some numbers. I believe hopefully you have them. I received some data from Alberta Transportation to reflect the overnight flow. And I sent a traffic accommodation strategy that was also professionally done in order to notify people correctly and have it in place so it's safe on the night.
Okay. Thank you, Chase. Are there, now I have a question on July 19th. It's a Monday evening. What times were you thinking of?
Oh, sorry. The date, yeah, sorry, the date has changed to Thursday, July 29th.
July 29th.
Yeah. Sorry about that. We ended up with our schedule change that also moved as well. So I apologize for not updating you on that. There's a little more time.
Okay. So what time would that be effective?
From 9 p.m. until 6 a.m. approximately.
6. And your diversion route through High River would be 12th Avenue to either 5th Street or Center Street.
Correct. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, the traffic accommodation reflects 5th Avenue.
And then diverting them back to 498th Avenue and continuing on there.
Correct.
So Alberta Transportation has given conditional
Yes,
Okay. And it's contingent upon whether it's okay with us for a diversion.
that's correct.
Okay. I'll go to a few questions. I'm not sure who came up first. I'm sorry. We'll start out at Kathy.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Jason, just a quick question. When you, I guess I was envisioning the northbound traffic, but when you mentioned, or when the southbound traffic was answered, northbound traffic was answered, they're going to come back onto 498. So I'm making the assumption that only the ramp on 498 will be impacted, that the northbound traffic could still cross the overpass and proceed northbound.
That's correct. Yeah. So
Okay.
our action basically starts on the ramp and then goes down to the highway.
Okay, thank you. I just hadn't envisioned both directions. So perfect, great.
And the probably the same on Highway 23 overpass. It would only be the northbound ramp that's affected. And yeah.
Yes, that's correct. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So basically we're just like the traffic flowing between the two is what we're controlling both
Right.
directions.
Yeah. So Councillor Kinghorn.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Did you say the 29th of July, Jason?
Yes.
Okay, that's the long weekend, that weekend. And
Yes.
we're worried about the higher traffic flows on the Thursday than what we normally get in those numbers, but I'll be supportive.
Okay. I'd actually spoke to Alberta Transportation about that because we had originally scheduled it for the 30th, the Friday of the long weekend. And that was a little misstep on our part. So they were okay to bump it back. We flipped our 2 days in the schedule and they were okay with us doing it on the Thursday. So.
Great. Okay. I don't see any other questions or concerns. So we have a motion drafted here that I could read out. And this if I read it, I don't have the ability to put it up on the screen here, and it's not in our package. So the motion reads, whereas Alberta Transportation has provided conditional approval for the Highway detour for film, Highway 2 detour for filming on July 9th or July 29th, 2021. And whereas the conditions outline that a letter of support and resolution are needed from both the town of High River and Foothills County, be it resolved that council authorize the mayor to sign the letter of support for the Highway 2 detour for filming on July 29th, 2021. Okay, and we'll call on Councillor McMillan to make that motion.
I'll be happy to give you that motion.
Great. And are there any further questions? Okay, all those in favor? It looks like it's, as Bill Robertson would say, carried unanimously.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Jason. To go with this, we have another resolution on the Beechwood properties that we had discussed previously. And as a matter of the time concern, we wanted to make that motion today. And if we could call on Councillor Nychuk to make this motion. The council authorizes Bear and Pear Productions to start filming in the former Beechwood neighborhood area from July 12th today until October 31st, 2021, with a donation amount to be negotiated by administration.
Excuse me, I'll make that motion for you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Is there any further questions or discussions on that motion? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, opposed? Okay, one opposed, it's carried but not unanimously. Okay. Thank you very much, and thank you, Jason, for your time. And
Thank you all.
hope you have a great day.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. I truly, truly appreciate your help and support.
Thank you.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Okay, we got the two new motions out of the way. We'll move to item number 6, our business items. And the first item is a budget request for removal of goldfish, again, from Highwood Storm Pond. And apparently Jason, the supervisor, the water operations is not available right now. So Riley is going to undertake to do a presentation on this.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Moore. So we are here for a budget request to remove goldfish from Highwood Storm Pond. We've become aware of them, and we are required to remove them as they may enter the Highwood. The systems are connected, even though it's through pipes. There is still a risk that goldfish could get into the Highwood, which is why we're pursuing this. We've worked with Advisian, who is already on contract to the town through the logistics of doing this. They've provided some pricing. We're familiar with the methodology from last time. So essentially we'll lower the pond. We'll fence the pond, then lower the water levels, apply the rotenone, and then we'll check for goldfish to make sure we get them all. Advisian handles the permits. The town itself will handle all the water levels, fencing, security, that kind of thing as necessary. And we've attached, there was a lot of questions last time, and we did an FAQ from last time, which I have attached to the report. And so hopefully that preempted some of the questions. And like Councillor Moore said, this isn't our first time at this, so it's unfortunate it happened again. And I'd be happy to take any questions.
Councillor McMillan.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Riley. I do have a question. When it says that the rotenone can only be applied during August and September, and the order time is expected to be 2 months, what happens if the delivery is delayed?
I would have to get back to you on that one, Councillor McMillan.
Because that sure is a narrow window of opportunity.
Yes, it is. Jason was the one working with environment with the discussion, so I'm afraid I can't answer that one.
Okay. And I appreciated the FAQ part, and I found it quite interesting how specific with a 132-pound person would have to consume 150,000 liters of water in 24 hours. I found that quite fascinating about how. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Manstrom.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And thanks, Riley. Just had a couple of questions. The road known, I mean, we know it kills fish. Does it kill all life in the pond?
No, it does not. It is it primarily focuses on animals with gills.
Okay, thank you. So frogs and bird life and
It's kind of like people. They would have to ingest a huge amount of the water.
right. Okay, and I'm sorry, I'm sure this is in here and I just missed it, but when was the last time we had to do this?
Oh,
2015.
Yeah.
But it wasn't in the storm pond itself. It was in the forebay to the storm pond.
Okay.
And they are connected. The forebay collects the storm water and kind of it's it being a forebay, it's supposed to allow the bad stuff to settle and before it's pumped, and it's pumped under the pathway into the storm pond. And then they've got a pump right at the south end of the Highwood storm pond, and it pumps it across Riverside Drive underneath to Vista Mirage storm pond. And then from there, there's another great big pump that pumps it right into the river from there. So it usually should have settled down. All of the bad stuff settled down before it gets to the river. However, I had a question as well, is what type of screening do we have on those outfalls from each month? Because the reason that I asked that is that we had this problem in 2015 and we pumped or drained the forebay into Highwood Lake. And I'm wondering if some of the fish could have gotten drained out of the forebay into Highwood Storm Pond. And if the same thing when we're lowering the level of the water, if it could be pumping fish into the river, basically. So if we don't have the proper screening on there.
Councillor Moore, I don't actually know what screening is on there right now.
It's basically bars just across so that you get the major debris and stuff out, but little goldfish can squeeze through that pretty easily.
Oh, on the forebay, yes, but the intake for the other one from the main body, I'm not quite sure what, because that one's fairly deep and I don't know if we've ever had access to it.
Yeah, I think that the depth of the pond itself is about 12 feet. So, but it comes across at about 4 feet down is the intake for the main storm pond. The other thing is that it's at the highest level right now that it's been in years. And there's going to have to be a drastic amount of water taken out of there to bring it to the right levels.
Deputy Mayor, can I ask the rest of my questions or?
Oh, yes, you certainly can.
Sorry to interrupt, but if I don't ask them, I'll forget them. I just had to, so Riley, it's both a federal and a provincial offense to release goldfish into, or any invasive species into this water body. I guess I'm wondering, whether we ever try to find out, or is it absolutely impossible to find out how these fish got there? And actually, I'll finish my question, and then I'll be quiet for a minute. But I just wanted to say that because it's so difficult to find out, I think it's really, and because it's so bloody expensive for municipalities and taxpayers to have to pay for the consequence of people who don't have the guts to, or the heart to dispose of unwanted goldfish in a more terminal, non-polluting manner, that taxpayers end up with these horrendous bills, and it's and I just wanted to say that the Alberta government does run a program called Report a Poacher, and this is one of those offenses that actually pays people to report people. So if any High River residents know of people who have disposed of goldfish in this pond or any other places in High River, just look up Report a Poacher online and turn them in, and you'll get paid. You'll see a couple $100 at least, and it's it seems to be one of the very few deterrents that we have, and of dealing with these people. So I'm sorry, I don't know if there was a question in there or just my rant, Riley. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Masterman.
And Councillor Cooey.
Deputy Mayor, thanks, Riley. Just a couple of questions. First one, just to understand the process, how do we recognize the goldfish in there? Is it visual? Is that how we?
Correct, it's visual.
It's visual. I was curious, and I'd asked earlier, why do we think it's just Highwood Pond? And I know that's not a fair question because you don't have the answer to that. But more importantly, because it is just Highwood Pond that we've had this issue at, and more to Councillor Masterman's comments about the cost, do we have a plan, or is there something we can do for education in that area, whether that be signage around there, whether that be town crier bulletins? I hope there's some local media that are listening that could do some stories on education. But if, because it is not all of our water bodies that this is occurring in, if there's an opportunity to maybe do some of those A-frame signage, just some education, or flyer drops in houses. I'm not sure what the most efficient way is. Communications would probably have that, obviously our social media, but I think we need to try as best we can to educate people so this does not continue to be an issue. Again, I just find it really interesting that it is just Highwood Pond. But
thank you, Councillor Cooey. That's a good idea. We did a pretty significant education blitz last time, but it was kind of a one and done type of thing. So perhaps we could do something. We were planning on doing something similar again, but if we can look at how do we keep that information fresh every year or two, that might help. We're not the only community that struggles with goldfish, unfortunately. So it's not just, although for us, so far it's only been Highwood. Quite a few communities struggle with this.
Yeah, thanks, Riley. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Riley, perhaps you could answer this, is how do we know when they are eradicated? What if they, apparently they can burrow into the mud and be quite happy there with the rotenone, be able to affect them then?
Yes, it does. So we will, and then we check, so we'll do the rotenone, we'll do the application, and then we will check for goldfish after. I I haven't talked to Vizian directly, but I know last time we used traps. So we can put out little traps and see if we can capture fish and see what comes up. And we leave them out for a day or so, and we come back, and usually you can tell if you have fish in that regard or not. So that's usually the last time. That was how we did it, and we were successful last time. Well, I guess we were successful with the rotenone. We did try a couple more mechanical methods that were unsuccessful for actually that very reason. Is like when you go in with an electrofisher or netting, they do, you're right, they bury down into the mud and you can't get access to them, and you'll never get rid of them. The only way that we were successful was with the rotenone for that very reason. So that's what we'll do. And we do check afterwards to make sure we got them.
And is there dead fish floating around? Is that how you can determine if you got any of them?
I don't know what happened. I imagine so. I wasn't there when they did it last time. All I saw was the tally and the big Rubbermaid container of fish. So they were all collected by the time I saw it last time.
And there's no way that you can determine how many there are right now to find out if you got them all.
No, no.
Oh,
We could
yes.
sample to see how many we capture in a test and extrapolate some density from that, but that's not very accurate.
Yeah. Okay. Councillor Kinghorn.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Muir. Just quickly, Riley, is there some sort of a monitoring program that we have ongoing, and maybe I'd hate to suggest it, but a budget line item for ongoing maintenance of these ponds with regards to these fish? Because I'm pretty darn sure we've had dead fish at the other creek there. I don't know, is there anything ongoing, or is it just a one-shot deal?
Thank you, Councillor Kinghorn. At this time, it is just a one-shot deal. Staff do watch out for it, but we don't have any active goldfish tracking or monitoring program, or nor a budget item to go with that. It's just as we become aware, and then we'll or if staff notice it, or if a resident calls it in, then we act on it.
Okay, I see no further questions. We have a motion before us, and I'll ask Councillor McMillan to make this motion. Whereas the town has an existing master servicing agreement with Abbotsford, and whereas goldfish are an invasive species and pose a risk to the natural environment, and Alberta Environment and Parks require the removal of goldfish from water bodies, be it resolved that Council authorize a budget amendment to allow for goldfish removal from Highwood Storm Pond in the amount of $60,000 from the Stormwater Utility Capital Reserve, and that Council direct administration to award the service order for goldfish removal to Abbotsford in the amount of $39,118, excluding GST and contingency, in accordance with the existing master service agreement.
I'll give you that motion.
Thank you. And no further questions. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Now we eliminated eliminated 6.2. And we'll move right into 6.3, Eagleview Bank Protection Project with Tom Gillis.
Hello, thanks for having me here today. I'm here to talk about the Eagleview Bank Protection Project. This project is one of the last, or is the last, post 2013 erosion protection projects after the flood. It was identified that there could be a risk for the Highwood River to erode further west next to the Eagleview community. Originally, the project was to be a standard bank protection project, whereas the rock, the riprap, would be placed on slope. Given the fact that the town also, while the town acquired the CP lands, as well as not all the lands adjacent to the bank were able to be acquired by the town, the project has changed somewhat in that the concept is now to put passive riprap within the CP lands, basically bury riprap. And then in such case that the river migrates to the west, the riprap will be there to protect the Eagleview development from river migration. So that's really a little bit about kind of what we're trying to accomplish with this project. The project has been designed. It was tendered in the end of May. The tender closed. There were 5 tenders that were received by the town. They ranged from approximately 1.7 million to 2.5 million. A review of the tenders were undertaken to determine that to ensure that they were compliant. Based on the review, the lowest bid was Mart Yushev Construction. They were also found to be compliant in terms of their reference checks. So they had a pretty good response from their references. So that was the base bid was approximately 1.715 million. 1.715, sorry. Also, as part of the work, we had asked the contractors to bid some additional items, provisional items in the tender. There were 3 of them. The first one was pathway paving. That would be paving of pathway from along the project limits next to Eagleview. Unfortunately, the pricing was quite high. We think it's approximately twice as much of what we were estimating. So we're not recommending that part of the work be included in the tender or in the work. The remaining 2 other options were related to reduced working hours from 8 to 5, as well as no weekend work. Based on the proximity of the project to these residents in Eagleview and the intensity of the construction, the recommendation is that the optional items or additional items 2 and 3 be included in the tender. That is the reduced working hours and no weekend work. From a funding standpoint, the project is funded through original grant from FREC for this particular project, as well as additional surplus funds from other FREC projects that can be moved around and reallocated. And there is a cost share portion of this project, as it's above 2 million, I believe it's 25%, so that there's a cost share portion of the project that is proposed to come from the gas tax grant to provide funding. So there's a recommendation letter from the consultant that basically recommends that the tender be awarded to Mart Yushev in the amount of $1.7,601.88. I'll be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Tom. Does anybody have any questions? I know we discussed this previously. If not, I'll go ahead and read out this very long motion and ask for Councillor Nychuk to make the motion. Whereas Council approved the 2021 capital budget that included a carry forward of $1,410,680 for the Eagle View Bank Protection Project and a carry forward of $3,289,350 for Northeast and Northwest 71928 for buyout, both funded through FREC grants. And whereas the tender for the Eagle View Bank Protection Project closed on May 25th, 2021, with 5 bids ranging in price from $1,715,702 to $2,516,381, including 10% contingency, but excluding site occupancy, GST, and optional items. Be it resolved that Council direct administration to award the Eagle View Bank Protection Project to Martucell for construction work in the amount of $1,700,601.88, which includes contingency, excluding GST, and the Council authorized the Mayor and Chief Administrative Officer to execute the contract with Martucell, and the Council direct administration to submit an application under the Gas Tax Fund for the cost share portion of the project not covered by the FREC grant funding. And the Council authorized the reallocation between FREC grants to fund eligible expenditures for the Eagle View Bank Protection Project.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll make that motion for you.
Thank you very much for all your help.
It was all you.
Any further questions on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's carried unanimously. I inadvertently said that item number 6.2 was eliminated, but it's not. So we can proceed with contract award for safety codes permit inspection services. And Kaylee, you were going to give a presentation on this.
Good afternoon, Deputy Mayor Moore and Council. The Town of High River is an accredited municipality pursuant to the Safety Codes Act and requires an accredited agency to provide services within our boundaries. The Town of High River had posted an RFP on June 8th, 2021, inviting proposals for accredited inspection agencies authorized to provide inspection services in the building, electrical, plumbing, and gas disciplines. That RFP closed on June 22nd, 2021, with 2 proposals submitted. The term for this contract is August 1st, 2021 to July 31st, 2023. And the town currently has an operating budget for these services of $120,000 each year. Upon review of the submitted proposals, administration does recommend that Council award the contract to Davis Inspections for these safety codes permit inspection services. Was there any questions that Council had for me this afternoon?
Thank you, Kaylee. We have a question from Councillor McMillan.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor, and thank you very much, Kaylee, for your presentation. I'm just wondering, on page 86, when it's mentioning about, it's talking about the fire prevention programs and how the municipality will support and provide one or more of the following educational programs annually. I was just thinking that perhaps we could just change or update a little bit of verbiage where it says minority focused programs. I thought maybe just a general public education for all or something along those lines. I just thought that was a little bit of dated vocabulary.
Absolutely. I can definitely take note of that. Thank you.
Thanks, Kaylee.
Thank you. Councillor Kinghorn.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Moore. Kaylee, well done, but a question. Why do we have to limit it to one service provider? We've had past times where they're busy, that sort of thing, but we can't call on somebody else to do the work as a resident?
So sorry, just for clarity purposes, are we talking when someone's calling in for the inspection services that I know that in the past they used to have to call in the inspection agency. Now what takes place is it's actually all scheduled and coordinated through the town of High River staff so that we're able to better monitor and ensure that the inspections are being completed in the timely fashion and meeting our QMP.
Okay, so that sounds like it's a corrective step that we took, but we do have to limit it to one business, right?
That's correct, yes.
Any further questions? Okay. I'll ask Councillor Masterman if he would be kind enough to make this motion. Whereas the town of High River contracts the permit inspection services for the Safety Codes Department. And whereas the RFP for the Safety Codes Permit Inspection Services closed on June 22nd, 2021, with 2 proposals submitted. Be it resolved that Council authorized the proposal award for the Safety Codes Permit Inspection Services contract to Davis Inspection Services Limited to commence August 1st, 2021, with an end date of July 31st, 2023, with the possibility of extension for an additional year. And the Council authorized the Mayor and Chief Administrative Officer to execute the contract with Davis Inspection Services Limited.
I'd be happy to make that motion, Deputy Mayor, as long as I don't have to repeat it.
Okay, great. Good move. Thank you very much, Councillor Masterman. Any further questions on that motion? Okay, all those in favor? Nobody opposed. Great, thank you. Thank you, Kaylee.
Thank you.
I think that's all of our business. We eliminated the Town Plan Steering Committee applicants until further notice. So we'll move on to item number 7 is councillor reports and coal policy update, normally given by Mayor Snodgrass. I was wondering if there is any update that Councillor Masterman would like to give.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. There just a couple of developments in the past week. There have been a few organizations that have endorsed the High Rivers coal restriction policy, and two more, the Water Not Coal Society and the Alberta Hiking Association. I might have mentioned it before, and Crow's Nest Cafe and Coffee Shop down in the Crow's Nest Pass also endorsed it, and so did the Rocking Pea Ranch, just southwest of High River in the Nanton area. And a couple of other smaller villages, Village of El Nora. So we're just kind of picking away at this and still hopeful that we'll get Calgary and possibly Edmonton, but they seem to be distracted with other things right now. So that's really all I have to report, Deputy Mayor.
Great, thank you. On the COVID-19 update, I understand that there is no real update at this point.
That's correct, Deputy Mayor Moore. Nothing really new to report. Back to business as close to normal as possible right now.
And our number of active cases right now?
We're sitting at 5 as of this morning, and we're around 58% vaccination rate for those 12 and plus.
It's good news. Okay, any questions on those items? We'll move on to council correspondence requiring action. And item number 1 is letter from Jamie Ellis regarding the Hampton Hill Landfill Park and Storm Pond. Jamie did send me an email that I haven't replied to yet, that there was a contest a few years ago to name that park. I think that was in about 2011 or so. It was before the 2013 flood event. I think the name they came up with was Hawks Nest Park. And that was because there's a lot of hawks in that area, and the hawks on top of the hill love to swoop down on the new ducklings in the pond across 2nd Avenue on Brian Sidorsky's property that they used to capture them all the time. So there was a predominance of hawks in that area. And I think that's the name that they settled on. I could be wrong because there was a few suggestions, but it was one young youth person, male person, that actually won the contest. So Jamie, or Councillor Kinghorn.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I do remember that contest, and there was a winner. In fact, the town of High River gave that young gentleman an award at the time. I'm sure it's got to be in council minutes somewhere, and I just wanted to know if we should revisit that as well.
Yeah, it was at the time that we had Kalana was the environment coordinator for the town. And she organized the contest at that time. So on, Councillor Cooey.
Thanks very much, Deputy Mayor. Just a question on just kind of moving forward. Looking at some of these items, obviously 2nd Avenue is on the books for design, I think 2023, and build out down the road after that. So it's on the books. We know it's not nearly soon enough for the people of the Hamptons and the people of Sunshine Terrace that's around that, but it is on the books moving forward. But things like mowing the toboggan hill in the fall, and looking at that the use of the big area. I'm not sure when it was ever decided it wasn't to be a soccer pitch. I don't recall being a part of those discussions, but 8 years is a long time and it goes through my mind. So anyways, I'm just wondering if Chris, how we proceed with possibly, some of these are pretty simple solutions in the short term. Obviously, we need to look at some of the other issues. You know, I don't know at what point. I know there's a certain point where we take over a development and then that the trees do become our responsibility. I don't know if we're there yet, which of course muddies the water. But anyways, I'm just curious, kind of going forward, what kind of things we could do.
Certainly, Deputy Mayor Moore through to Councillor Cooey. I think there's a couple of easy items to take care of, and one is the mowing twice a year. To reduce the fire hazard and the fire risk on that property, because if there were a fire to take off from our land and hit private property, we would be held liable for all those damages associated with that. So that's something to be aware of, and I think that's an easy solution to knock down the weed burden and make sure that it is a little bit more usable park. Now, we do have some wildlife there that we have to be wary of and some nesting sites, and we need to inventory those. The other one is the trees to be replaced up there. It is, you know, when I walked the site with Mr. Ellis, it was hot. It's not an enjoyable park space in the summer months. It's dusty, it's lacks trees, it lacks viewpoints and seating areas. It's got some great views of other areas. So it is functionally that way. And the pathway needs to be some work to be a little bit more compacted so that it's not washing away either using millings or those sort of things. The storm pond behind, I think that's a much longer term solution that we have to sit down and talk with, figure out how to connect that to Happy Trails. And then, of course, the trees that he mentioned within the Hamptons, they are staked out right now to be transplanted and replanted as soon as our order comes in. So that was on the horizon. And I think there is some attention into that northeast section that needs to be focused on. If we own a park, we need to make sure we're doing the maintenance on it and that we're putting the same efforts as Sunshine Lake or Emerson or George Lane Park from that perspective. So I think there's some easy solutions there. He mentions the three-way stop. I'm actually shocked that a kid hasn't been hit driving that intersection every day. Some of the speeds of people coming through there don't pay attention to the playground zone. And I'm absolutely shocked that we haven't had a kid get hit by a car yet. So those are some of the things, but I think it's an easy one is to get it mowed this fall. You know, later in the fall, early October before the snow flies, if the snow hasn't already flown by that time. It is Alberta, so we can get snow any time of the year, and knock that grass down and then plan that again for the mid to early spring as well. So
that's great. Thanks. Just maybe another thing, just a thought, maybe we could have Peter take the speed reader to that area. That does tend to slow people down a little bit. I know that he's done readings in that area, and not that and the speeds have not been as high and as often as kind of is perceived. So he has done some targeted readings of that area, but I do think the speed reader does kind of deter people a little bit, just to make it, maybe have an appearance there once in a while.
Yeah. Councillor McMillan.
Thank you. And Chris, I have a question regarding the three-way stop. Is there, is that being considered in an upcoming?
I think it's something that we need to discuss, and especially, you know, philosophically, when we talk about protecting pedestrians, the best way to protect pedestrians is through road design, getting the proper road design, making it challenging for the vehicle to get around. It's still doable, but making it challenging. That includes maybe some stop signs, maybe some narrowing of intersections with bump outs, those types of things to protect the pedestrians. I think we'll bring this back for conversation at the budget table for putting that into a three-way stop. It's not a big budget item, but there may be some additional painting or some additional education that has to go along with that to justify the reasons why, because it is being used as a cut through. There's quite a bit of traffic that does cut through that for some unknown reason, would rather go through the neighborhood in the multiple multiple stop signs that are already existing there instead of taking the gravel road. So
Yeah.
it is interesting to watch, and being a resident there, watching that, I'm actually shocked that we haven't had a kid hit. Even on 2nd Avenue, people, there's some wide intersections there, and all along 2nd Avenue, even that one that's midpoint at the radio tower there. And it's not so much the vehicles, it's the pedestrians that don't look both ways, that just step out. And it's an insane amount of people, pedestrians and cyclists, that don't bother looking up and down the road to see if there's traffic coming. They just ride out, thinking that the vehicles are going to stop. But at the speeds of 60 kilometers an hour that you do see, 50 to 60 kilometers an hour, when you hit somebody at that speed, 80% more likely for serious injury compared to 30 kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
So it's a significant drop. So it's interesting. We've got to take a look at that. And I think that's an overall philosophy as well, about using different methodologies to make it safer for pedestrians, not always relying on technology, but road design is kind of a key factor. Narrowing the roads down, stop signs, raised crosswalks, speed humps, all those myriad of traffic calming effects that can make things better for the pedestrian and the cyclist.
And then my second question is, because I don't remember this decision either to repurpose the park. So what is the plan then?
Well, I've gone through and I had staff take a look at all the resolutions, and there was no specific resolution that really targeted the reduction in maintenance or service for that specific park. What there was a report that was received for information for council based upon the damage that the flood caused on the landfill and the most cost-effective solution to prevent pollution from impacting the residents around there, and solving it from that perspective. And that report was received in 2017 by council. I can't remember the specific date, and that was received for information about the new kind of format of that landfill to be what's termed an Riley, correct me if I'm wrong, evapotranspiration landfill design.
Yes, essentially it's the cap on the existing landfill. So there is concern with water getting into that existing landfill, and so the design on top of it is to prevent. Is Tom still here? He was actually the one involved in it. No, Tom buggered off. So it was normally you do a clay cap to prevent water. So this is all about trying to capture that water and then have the vegetation re-release it up. So evapotranspiration. I don't know why I can't say that. So,
I can't either, Riley.
So that's hence why we picked the grass. So the grass is a long variety. The grass was it was designed not to be mowed. It's a variety that doesn't like to be mowed, and we have actually, like Chris said, had quite a few birds take up habitat in there. And so now you're falling into the nesting, Migratory Bird Act, same thing we're struggling with on the bridge in terms of birds. As soon as a bird creates a nest, you have a challenge.
Right.
And so we actually do have challenges with that right now as well. So it was essentially driven by the landfill design, because a clay cap was, like Chris said, it was a cost measure, was a part of it. So we came up with a solution. It was something that had been used once or twice before with good results. It was a lot cheaper than a clay cap. DRP wasn't going to fund the full amount for a traditional cap, because in terms of what was there previously was not a standard cap. It had been capped a long time ago by, I think, AT. And so even calling it a cap was probably generous at the time. And so combined with what we had in terms of funding, combined with solutions, this is what we got an approval for from Environment. It was presented to council for information in terms of here's the solution and here's kind of why. And that's what's there today. We do have, to add to that as well, is we do have problems with trees growing out there. that's a comment Darlene has made in terms of it's just hard to get stuff to grow there. So we can look at that more in terms of varieties or tree pits or whatnot. But again, being careful if we don't encourage water to migrate down.
Right. Thanks, Riley.
No problem.
And we do a little bit of mowing there right now along the pathway. We do about 2 swaths on either side of the pathway to keep the weeds down, and so we do a little bit. But yeah, it's primarily just long grasses, and it is becoming thickly matted grasses as well.
So, Chris, could we impose on administration to bring forward a couple of recommendations of kind of easier fixes to make it more acceptable, both in the park and for the safety concerns on the roadway? I don't think that we have simulated the storm pond yet, and we have taken it into the town of High River. It's still under Lansdowne. And so anything on there before it is turned over to the town, we always have specifications of what has to be done. And that would be the time to bring in the trees and other things there, and maybe a more acceptable pathway system. We did spend quite a bit of dollars on that park, and it was supposed to be the sole responsibility of the developer at that time, but we split the costs of doing it under an arrangement. So it did look pretty good before the flood, but and we were required to do the remediation of the landfill or the dump there, because every municipality had a separate dump in their own jurisdiction, and this was basically on the outskirts of the town of High River at that time. And we of course, the old dumps used to have fires and burn things and everything. And when Lansdowne made an application for phase 12 of the Hamptons development, it was very close to that land or that dump area, and Alberta Environment came up with no, you have to there's a bunch of restrictions for old municipal dumps that have to be followed. And one of them was that you could not have a residential site within 300 meters of that dump. And it was determined at that time that the 2 homes in Sunshine Lake were actually within 300 meters, right at the end of Sunshine Lake homes there. And they Alberta Environment came up with it, with a whole bunch of regulations and stipulations that we had to do to remediate that site. And when we did dig down, we found, and to Alberta Environment's approval also, that there is enough of a clay liner in there that that none of the leachate would escape and cause methane gas problems. So it was quite involved process of what they ask us to do. And we said, well, why are you picking on us? Everybody else in the province has a dump site right close to their municipality. And their answer to us was, you guys brought it up, so now we have to act on it. So we ended up doing those candy cane structures, which are venting the methane gas. And actually, it's really no methane is coming from there, but they were part of the restrictions. And we ended up with approximately between $50,000 and $100,000 a year of monitoring cost on all of those monitoring wells that we had to have there. So I brought up the thing that, hey, you guys built the little boat canal right next to this, and you didn't have any problem with building a structure, something that's carrying water to southern Alberta right next to our landfill, but now we have to do all this remediation. They said, oh, well, that's because we could, basically. So it's another thing of Alberta Environment imposing regulations on us. And they're probably okay because we had to make sure when it's close to residential properties that there is going to be no danger to groundwater or to people living in those areas. So with that, how the park got established originally. It was promised by Lansdowne that they would build a park right there. And it's actually on Town of High River owned land. So we split the cost with Lansdowne and we put a whole bunch of money in there and built a park with a parking area. And shortly after that, it was destroyed by the flood. So that's how the situation that we're in now. So it's I think it says that's council correspondence requiring action. So the action would be if you could bring forward a recommendation on what we could do.
Yeah, we can get that for the next meeting in August.
Right. Okay. Now, item number 8.2 was a letter of support request from High River Performing Arts. And if Corinne, here, are you going to address this?
Deputy Mayor Moore, I think it's just if council wants to consider providing them a letter of support to submit that grant application under the CCRF. That's what they're looking for, is whether or not we would submit that, give them a letter of support that we support the High River Performing Arts space on second, yes, third, fourth, fifth. Yeah, fifth. Had to be one of the numbers.
Okay, so are there any questions about the letter of support? Because we have a motion ready to go that I'll ask Councillor Cooey to make, and that's that council authorized the mayor to sign the letter of support for High River Performing Arts Foundation.
I will give you that motion.
Yeah, great, thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. That's carried. And another letter of support request from Creative Art Reconciliation Installation. And you've all read the material submitted about the entry posts on George Lane Park. And are there any questions on any of that? Councillor Masterman.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, no, not really a question. So they into in the beginning of September, but the event itself is the 12th, I believe, of September. And I'm just wondering if we can make a suggestion. I don't think it's up to, depending what Chris has to say about this, maybe up to our comms department to say why these this fabric will be placed at the gate. But it would sure be nice if High River residents were told, either by our comms or we make the suggestion to Amanda that they do their own messaging and get some media coverage of it, just so that people know what it's all about. And because, as I say, I think it's going to be up there for almost 2 weeks before the actual event. So it would sure be nice if people in High River knew what it was all about. It's a good cause. I like the fact that she reached out to a woman from Siksika to collaborate. And so anyway, just a thought. I don't know if that's a question or not, Chris, but.
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor Moore.
Yes.
May I speak to that, please?
You certainly can. You were next on the list.
Well, thank you. So, Councillor Masterman, Amanda had emailed me in advance about this project and how they're developing their group, and she was just waiting for the approval about to have it go ahead before doing anything. But they sound very organized, and I'm sure they'll communicate things very clearly.
Yeah. And,
thanks. Thank you.
Amanda is part of the High River Performing Arts Association, and the province has declared that all of September is Culture Days, Alberta Culture Days. And instead of just the last weekend in September, that it's most of the time is. So they've got a number of projects, but the High River Performing Arts Association has they haven't got the grant yet, but they've applied for it and they will get it. And they do a brochure and advertising about all of the events and things that are going on in September as part of Alberta Culture Days. So it will be advertised, and then it's on the Alberta Culture Days website as well. So I will ask Councillor McMillan for to give me this motion that council authorize the mayor to sign the letter of support for Creative Art Reconciliation Installation. I
will give you that motion.
Great, thank you. All those in favor? That's carried as well. Thank you. Council correspondence for information. There's just 11 letters there that you've all read. The only thing that I point out is 9.3. There is no town of Panoka in Alberta, but it's Panoka. Panoka. So is there any comments on any of the letters? Any questions? That's okay. You know what? I think we're done. Oh, Kathy, Councillor Cahoon.
Sorry, just one question, just wanting to ensure someone is responding to the concerns regarding the asphalt plant outside of High River.
Yeah, good point. I read that and knew that it had absolutely nothing to do with us, but somebody should respond and say that, I guess.
Deputy Mayor Moore, we will respond to Mr. Toth and let him know that that is in the Foothills County.
Great, thank you. Okay. Oh, Jamie.
I was just going to add that if we could ask Chris to forward that on and ensure that the county of Foothills receives that letter. Please.
Yeah, good point, because I don't think that we received any consultation in the location of that. I think the reason that they got it there is because of the materials that they're getting out of the ground right there. Okay. So with that, and there's no other questions or concern, thank you very much, everybody. The regular council meeting on July 12, 2021. I declare adjourned at 4:38. Enjoy the rest of the day, everybody. It's beautiful out there.